It is Friday. I'm sure this interview with our schedule will probably air on a Friday as well. Welcome to the Daybreak Star Radio Network. Our motto, Ruth-Ann, you know this, indigenize in the airways. Ruth-Ann is no stranger to the Daybreak Star Radio Network. We met at the recent Res conference down in Las Vegas. And of course, when you were up here with your camera team about a couple months ago. I remember the day vividly because it was perfect timing because we were doing a photo shoot here for our network the day that you were here. So that the timing was great. Ruth, how are you?
I'm wonderful. And so I want to tell you that was probably the highlight of our trip. And it was above and beyond anything we could have expected. We felt like we were going to come in and, catch a couple interviews and then maybe see a little bit of a performance here and there, like a rehearsal. It was like a full-blown production and just incredible. I mean, the culture, the dancing, and the fact that people are taking the time to teach the little ones, the Coast Salish people. It was pretty special.
So thank you so much for visiting here. It meant a lot to everybody. So tell everyone who's listening right now who you are, your tribal affiliation, and what you're up to.
Sure. So I'm Ruth-Ann Thorn, and the reason I go by Ruth-Ann is because we have a lot of Ruths in the family. And so, when you have a family gathering, you got to know who you're talking to. So we ended up with the middle name. It's got a little bit of a Southern ring, but we are Southern. We're from SoCal. And so I'm from the Rincon band of Luiseño Indians, which is located about 45 minutes northeast of the airport. And we've been here on this land. I'm at the res as we speak. We've got a big rainstorm coming in, which we desperately need because of the fires. But my family's been here forever, basically, really forever, on this land, not specifically on the land that the res is on. But in the region, we're known as people of the West. So we're actually Pantacuichan people, and that's our original language. Luiseño obviously came from the Spaniards. But I've been here, and my background is primarily the arts. So I've been a gallerist for now going on 27 years. And 20 of those years, I owned and operated 7 galleries, 3 in San Diego, 1 in Laguna Beach, 1 in Beverly Hills, and a big one at the Las Vegas Forum Shops at Caesars. And then a small one in Breckenridge, Colorado for a very short amount of time. So I've really been immersed in art, and not necessarily native art, because when you have galleries that are in mainstream areas, have to have a diversity to stay alive, although my heart is obviously with my native people. So that's my backstory. And I've been an entrepreneur. I moved out of the house when I was 14. And my first career was a drug runner from Tijuana. I brought cocaine across the border because that's what sometimes you have to do when you are from I would say, a deficit, not having a lot of monetary resources within your family. And so I think, that took me a long time to share that story with people because there was such a kind of an embarrassment and a shame. But as I've gotten older, I feel like it's an important story to tell because there's still a lot of people on reservations that maybe don't have the story that they would like to have, and they feel disqualified to go beyond that and do great things. And so I kind of tell that story more because I want to encourage people that no matter where your start has been, it doesn't have to be the ending of your story. And so that was the beginning of mine, but I've just always had this entrepreneurial spirit. So it started out in representing the arts. I feel like my really overview is a person that's taking care of artists. So like a keeper of culture, keeper of the arts.
So I have a question. How did you, from where you came from and with the story that you just shared, where did you get the spirit? Where did you get the courage to then, you're entrepreneurial clearly, but you didn't start that way. How did you get the courage to start and to get on your path?
Well, one thing's for sure, if you want a quick MBA in business, then take a look at the drug trade, because you're going to learn everything that you need to know real quick. So you learn about, demographics, margins, risk assessment. I mean, you're going to learn real quick about the principles of business. And that goes, the principles of business, it doesn't matter what you're involved in, is business, marketing, quality of product, whatever you're doing, it's there. So in a way, thankfully, I survived that journey, because I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. Interestingly enough, when I did get introduced to the art world, which was in 1988, I got married young and I moved to Hawaii, and I had done a little bit of college. I technically have a 9th grade education, but I did go back to junior college a little bit. And I thought, well, I should probably figure out, something to do. And I got hired at an art gallery in the summer, just for, I thought, a short window. And within 2 weeks, I just realized this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to do. So I decided not to go to University of Hawaii, and I quit all other pursuits. I was working at a couple restaurants, and I just devoted my time to really understanding the art world. And that's how it all started.
Wow. And so how old were you when that happened?
I was 21.
That's great. And the reason I ask is because sometimes our youth think that, if you haven't graduated high school and if you haven't figured out your life by the age of 17 or 18, then you've already failed. And it's so not true. We can do anything, anytime in our lives.
We can. And I think, as Native people, within our being, it wasn't until we were colonized that we started getting these rules and regulations. And I see it a lot in modern day society. It's a checklist. And to be a good person, you have certain things. You've got this list, and it starts out with go to a decent, elementary school, have good parents, click. And then, it goes on, get into a university by this age, mark that off, meet your significant other in college, settle down, get a cul-de-sac, get a couple of safe cars, and repeat the exercise. And for me, I've always felt like that, first of all, is such a yawn fest. And secondly, Creator has a different shift for all of us. And for us to decide that there's this idea of how we're supposed to do this very short commercial we call life, I think is something. And it also puts a tremendous amount of pressure on people when they look at themselves to say, am I doing this life right? There's so much judgment that's involved. And I think we miss out on a lot of great creatives because we box people in. And so it's kind of been the opposite of that.
Yeah, we need everybody. We need the artists, and we need the lawyers, and we need the doctors, and we need the ditch diggers, and we need the electricians, and we need everybody.
Yes.
Ruth, one of our main emphases here at the Daybreak Star Radio Network is empowering the youth, the next generation, and we have so many listeners who are still going through 8th, 9th, 10th grade and trying to understand what they want to do as a career, what profession they want to go in. And as a pioneer businesswoman and a role model of someone that has been able to check off so many important things on the list, Ruth, such as yourself, what recommendation do you give to the new generation climbing up through the ranks in terms of prioritizing and scheduling and being respectful and being punctual on an everyday basis or on a Monday through Friday basis, so they can eventually capture their dreams and have a showing, have an art gallery in an area like Beverly Hills. That's someone's dream to be able to accomplish that. That's not easy to do.
Well, I have a 15-year-old, so we have a lot of these discussions. And I think, in our business, we're always bringing in interns. So we have high school interns that come in every year, and they ask me a lot of that same question. And I think the important thing is to first find out what your passions are. I mean, everybody has something that they really enjoy doing. And I think that's a really good place to start cultivating whatever that passion is. And then, so that's kind of the internal, but the actual practical is start figuring out where you can learn from other people within the space that you have interest in. So for instance, if you're interested in the arts, if you can go and intern or go to gallery showings or, volunteer your time, even if it's something like, hey, I'd love to come and can I sweep the floors here? The ability to be surrounded in a space and listening with your ears open to what's actually going on in this space. And is this something that I could see myself doing? I think that's really important. And the other thing I always tell my daughter, ever the opportunity to show up. Because a lot of times people say, well, what am I going to get out of it? I don't know if I should show up. Maybe I'm going to get something. I mean, people want things laid out. And I think if you approach life that way, you miss out on so much. A big part of life is just showing up. Go to the thing, whatever it might be, and see what happens. But the ability to push yourself out of your comfort zone is the key to all success. Because we as human beings, we are already wired. And as Native people, we are also dealing with generational trauma. So within our DNA, besides the fact that it's coded for the skin color we have, our eye color, and various other things, we're also unfortunately coded for a lot of fear because we have faced an immense amount of trauma and rejection. And so a lot of us as Native people, we already have a little bit of a strike against us, which we're starting to work that out of our DNA code, hopefully. And so next generations aren't as freaked out as we are. But we have to understand that it might take a little bit more for us to push ourselves out to be a little bit uncomfortable in our environment and do it anyway. That is my whole thing is, with some of the projects, besides doing the art, I'm doing things that I have no business doing. I have no idea how to do it. I really want to do it, but I don't know how to do it. And so you know what? I do it anyway. And I do it even if I know, okay, I'm going to try that. And it's probably going to suck to begin with. So be it.
So on that, you're making a documentary. How did you do that?
Funny story. So about 4 years ago, I thought I was looking up something about a really well-known artist, an African-American artist in New Orleans. His name is Willie Birch. And somebody had asked me about African-American art. And I said, I'm embarrassed, but I don't really know that much about it. So I started doing some research and I landed upon this gentleman. He's now I think he's in his mid 80s, maybe early 90s, but he had a one-man show at the Guggenheim in the 90s and just fascinating story. So I was reading about him, but I thought, you know what? I'd love to see some video because nobody can tell something better than the actual person who creates things, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't find anything on him. I thought, gosh, that's kind of ridiculous. And here he is, he's getting up in age. So I started thinking, why isn't it that we don't have more footage on some of these great masters? So long story short, I started a series called Art of the City, and I assembled a film crew. And I'm pretty good talking to people. So I said, let's just go video people. We started here in San Diego. We picked 4 of the top artists, not necessarily Native artists, but artists that had made a worldwide impact living in one place for at least 25 years. And it started in San Diego. Then we went from San Diego to Chicago, then Santa Fe, and New Orleans. And then COVID hit. So we ended up with 13 episodes. You can watch them on YouTube. And then they eventually got picked up by FNX, primarily because of the Santa Fe segment. We had 4 Native artists there. And then COVID hit, and then they asked me to do an online presence for artists during COVID. So we did a live Zoom presentation, bringing artists on, continuing with Art of the City. That ended up being also aired with SWAYA. They had us interview people during Santa Fe Indian Market. And that was it. And then this last year, I decided to do a new series called This is Indian Country, which is all native content. And it's about creators on and off reservations that are doing art, music, culinary arts, tattoo, comedians, you name it, we've got it.
We sure do.
Ruth, let's talk about N8IV Beauty, and where can our listeners purchase it? And please provide us the background and story behind your beauty collection.
So kind of the dovetail of every business that I'm involved with has to do with educating people, at least at this point, on who we are as Native people. And one of the spaces that I recognize that has not been really, we have no representation, is the beauty space. We do have a couple of incredible makeup people. We have Cheekbone Beauty and Prados Beauty, and those gals are killing it with their products, but they're not really skincare based. And so I thought, you know what, I'll go ahead and look into that space, because we as Luiseño people, we harvest acorns. California Mission Indians, that was our major food source. But within that, my aunties used to take the acorns when we gathered, and they'd get the oil from it, which is really good for cuts and lesions. But just so happens that my aunties never aged. And I was like, as I got into my 30s, I said, what are you guys doing? They said, oh, put the oil in your cheap skincare. So I kind of had that as a backstory. I didn't really think of it until about 5 years ago when we were gathering. It came up again. And I said, okay, I'm going to create a skincare line. Again, I didn't know anything about it. I knew that I wanted the major ingredient to be acorn. And I knew I wanted something that had botanical source from reservations. And that's how it started. So I met with people from labs, chemists, and came up with my idea. And, here we are 4 years later with a really strong brand that's getting more and more traction.
Great.
That's awesome. So odd question, I guess it's about grants, but have you gone after grants for any of these projects? And if so, what was that like? Or how did you get funding?
Yeah, I'm kind of one of those crazy, probably not as intelligent as most people. I've never taken a business loan. I've never taken a grant, and I have never had a partner in the entire time I've grown my businesses. I've bootstrapped it. And I've always looked at the idea that, you can, if you just have to, make intelligent risks. I mean, you're risking, but at the same time, you grow as you can. So I have always been one that didn't live on a huge amount of my income. It always goes back into the business. So every profit is poured back into growing. I always say growing a new crop. Business to me is like being a farmer. You look at a piece of land and you're like, okay, I think we can do this. And then you put the resources in, then you've got to tend it. And the real key is surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you are. I don't have to know everything, and most of the time I don't. And I have no problem with that. My whole thing is I'm like the orchestra conductor. I can't play any of the instruments, but I can sure find the musicians to be part of the band. And that's what I do. And I think that's what a strong CEO does and a strong entrepreneur. You're like, I don't know how to do that, but I'm going to figure somebody that does. And I'm working actually on probably the biggest project that I've ever worked on. That was a concept of mine that also dovetails into being the protector of culture, being the protector of who we are as Native people. But it also spans out to the entire world. About 4 years ago, when I was serving, I've been serving at Rincon as the head of our Economic Development Corporation for the past 7 years. I resigned about 6 months ago because of this project I'm going to tell you about. But I was at a conference called NAFOA. It's Native American Financial Officers Association. It is a real yawn fest. Sorry, NAFOA. I know that, people who are accountants, they just love it. But for a person like me, okay, I have to show up and shake hands and I'm just show up. Okay, so I go to this thing and it's 8:00 in the morning. For full disclosure, the natives were out wild the night before. So we were in New Orleans. We rolled in really late. So I'm in this thing with a cup of coffee, probably with my sunglasses on, going, please let it be over. And the speaker starts talking about blockchain technology, how blockchain works. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so boring, until they start talking about artifacts. And the speaker says, what we're doing right now with the blockchain is when we go to do an archaeological dig in Indian country, we'll find an artifact. We geotag it, we take a photo of it, and we put it on the blockchain because it will be there forever. And that got my attention, because as an art dealer for all these years, the one thing that we have never had is we've never had the ability to chronicle all of the living artists in space that would be there forever, that's unbreakable. The reason why this is important is because artists need to protect their intellectual property rights. So if you're an artist right now, the only way for you to protect your artwork is to send your information to the Library of Congress, which is 7 years behind. So I'm thinking about this platform. And again, I'm not a technology person. I don't know anything about tech, how to do it. I called a really good friend of mine, Eileen Murray, who is a whiz. She's one of the hedge fund people out of New York, really smart. And I said, do you know anything about this? So fast forward, she put investment behind it. She hired some of the top tech people to create the first worldwide registry for artists. And we did the rollout of this, or the premiere of this, at Indian Market, because I felt that the most important people that needed this were our own people. And the technology behind it is unbelievable. I mean, it would be a very long story, but in essence, it chronicles the artist's work. It allows the collector to get an electronic certificate of authenticity so that they know that the artist that created it actually did. And then 100 years from now, it will give artists the ability, if somebody stumbles across a piece of artwork, you just take a picture of it, scan it, and boom, it'll come up through the blockchain and it'll show you who created it, when it was created. So it acts as a historical document as well. And it's going to revolutionize the art world. So
that'll definitely revolutionize the Indian art world, because usually we have, you can take European art and you can have somebody's complete backstory, where they were born, how they came up, who their parents were, what lord was their benefactor, all this stuff. And you get the exact same time period in Indian country and it'll say Hopi artifact.
Right.
Period. And that might not even be true. It's,
right.
Sometimes it's not. And then they'll squish them all together on one mannequin and call that Native American culture. And it would be amazing to have that history preserved, especially with our artists now. They make amazing, amazing pieces of jewelry, sculpture, art, film, you name it. And to have that recorded and to show that it's not an extinct culture, but it's alive and thriving, that's an amazing project.
So I'm pinching myself because it was my idea. Obviously, just like any idea, the idea is only as good as the execution. So bringing in that are much smarter, have a lot more money than I do, because this was a very expensive thing to develop. But now it's imprintregistry.com. And Waya, they actually gave their artists 4 free months. It's reasonable. It's $15 a month. And it acts as a database. It's the ability to transfer if somebody buys your artwork or not. I had a young lady whose grandmother does these most exquisite quilts. She's Lakota, and her grandmother doesn't sell these, but she wants to take photos, put them up on the blockchain as a historical document and a family heirloom, so that families down the road have a place to go and reference, what the grandmother did. And I think that's so amazing.
Yeah, that really is. So what was the name of the site again?
Called imprintregistry.com. And you can go on there. And I really encourage, and the thing that's beautiful about this is it's equality. So it doesn't matter if you're a super famous selling artist or you're doing anything that you want your intellectual property to be recorded. Blockchain is unbreakable. And it's an incredible new way of preserving culture. And I feel like, we really need that, because I think about it this way. 200 years from now, unfortunately, there's a good chance that we don't even exist anymore. You think about art tells the story of the people that were here before. That's why we go to museums. So if we want to check out what the Egyptians were doing, we go to the Met, we go to the Egyptian corner and we go, wow, they were doing this and that. And here's a little bit about their stories and whatever. There may come a day when that's unfortunately what happens to the first people of this northern continent. And so it's really important. We can't go back, unfortunately, and discover who created what, but we can certainly record it now. And there's some incredible creators in our midst.
There sure are.
Other thing is, I also am hoping as this is implemented, that it keeps people from buying native inspired out of, wherever, because they're going to require a certificate of authenticity with that cuff that they bought from Cody Sanderson. And if they don't get that, they know, okay, Cody didn't create this. I think that's my biggest one ever. So I'm just so thrilled about it, because I'm thrilled to see how artists can be protected.
We've hit a lot, and we had just a couple of last minute questions, Ruth. We wanted to talk about your third reality TV show, not your first, not your second, your third reality TV show. And are you telling yourself 5 is the magic number? 10? What's the magic number? Most people can't even pull off 1. So what is it going to be? The third time's the charm here?
I think hopefully we get better at it. That's the key, right? The first ones, I'm so funny because I film it, we do the edit, and I see it once and then I never want to see it again. I'm like, all right, we can do better. But yeah, this, the third one is what I had been sharing with you. It's called This is Indian Country. And my hope is that at some point we can get funding. I'm producing, so I'm funding it and I'm the host, but I'd like to get funding just because there's a lot of area to cover. So 537 federally recognized tribes. We've got a lot of people to interview. Yeah. And so what it's about, and I'm trying to create a piece this time that is, I say, like an Anthony Bourdain meets Indian Country. I'm really trying to get away from the sad Indian story. I feel like it's been told, and I have total respect for the documentary filmmakers that are making content of really important issues, water issues and that. But I kind of want to show a lighter side of who we are, so that when people are watching, they really get to see the variety of human beings and the expansive talent that is here all across this nation. And so by going into places and interviewing these creators, you're seeing people that, are from all walks of life. And it throws the idea that, one, we're not here, but also the stigma of, what does a Native American look like? Well, they're probably kind of lazy, drinking a beer, really. And, so I want to show, no. And even though we've been through a lot, we've never stopped doing things. And to show that colorful tapestry across the country, I think people would want to see it, but not if there's white guilt attached to it. I don't want watching the show and go, oh my God, here we go. It's a big bummer what happened to the Indians. We know it. They know it. Let's show them a different side of who we are.
Yeah, the joy and the beauty and the fun and just the amazing, amazing creativity of the people. So what, if you could give a piece of advice to youth who might want to get into filmmaking or into kind of the media industry, or into art, what would you tell them to do?
Well, I think if you're real academic, and some are, then, try to go to get into film school. I think you can learn a lot of the techniques. If you're a little bit more like me and maybe are not so academic, then just volunteer your time on a camera crew. There's always that need to be done. I think volunteering, a lot of people think, oh my God, I'm not going to get paid for that. Well, guess what? When you go to school, you're not getting paid for that. And just for a bonus, you get to pay back later. When you're volunteering, it's actually a deal. You may not make any money, but you don't owe a student loan either. So it's like reframing the idea. I think kids, a lot of times, it's all about, what am I getting out of it? What am I getting out of it? And the question is what are you giving? And that's the key to life. The law of the universe is you cannot give and not have something come back in return. Mm-hmm. And thinking about life from a different perspective, that I'm going to give my time, and who knows what's going to come of it. I guarantee if you give your time, something good's going to come back. It just is. So that's what I always tell. I tell my daughter, get in there and do the work and don't worry about the outcome. It'll come.
Last question before we ask you so kindly if you wouldn't mind doing a station drop for us is, how does Ruth-Ann define a dream come true on an everyday basis?
That's such a great question, because I think as entrepreneurs, you're always working towards what's next. So whatever you're doing today was usually, it's like the seeds were planted a year ago and they're coming up, but you have to be thinking about what you're doing, what's going to be coming up in a year from now. So I think for me, it's the joy of knowing what I'm doing isn't just about me, that I'm creating spaces that branch out beyond myself and bless a lot of other people, whether it's artists, employees, tribes, creators that will maybe never be seen, or even in the beauty space where a Native young woman can go, oh my gosh, we have a space on the shelf there. We're represented, those maybe little things, but I think they mean a lot for a group of people who have had everything taken from us. So for me, it's everything I create. It's not about me. It's about the expansiveness of where this can go. And that is what brings me a lot of joy. That's how I define success. Am I creating something that can bless other people? And then for me personally, I define my success is always doing things that scare the out of me. If it's scary as hell, I'm right where I need to be. And I guess I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie that way.
That's not a bad way to be.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's Mishnewe for all you do.
And thank you guys for what you do, because it's so needed.
Success is planting the tree, even though you'll never be able to sit under its shade.
It's true.
Just planting the seeds. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth.
Yeah.
Great interview.
Well, hopefully it inspires some kids to,
I know it will.
I can do it. Anybody can do it.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, be safe out there. We're in the middle of the rain, which we needed, because I don't know if you guys saw the fires came over.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are so grateful for the rain. I was joking with a couple of my cousins. I said, man, nobody taught us the rain dance. This is a big problem.
We got to bring that back for sure.
Okay, guys. See you.
Bye.
Bye.